Welcome to the All About You podcast. And the All About You podcast is exactly what it sounds like. A podcast dedicated to the interesting, the wonderful and the eclectic world of you. I have created this podcast as a journey of discovery about people for you, the listener. I am your host Sheila, and let's meet this week's guest. So this week I'm very, very excited because this topic has been on my wish list for nearly 3 years. So today I'm delighted to say we are going to be talking about Botox, and my guest is Martin. So Martin, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Sheila. Thank you for inviting me on your podcast.
Well, as I say, this has been on my wish list for 3 years, so I'm very intrigued.
Okay.
So what I want to do is I want to go through with what Botox is, what it isn't, why people have Botox, how they have Botox, and the signs to look for, which I think is going to be very, very revealing.
Okay.
So, Martin, let's start at the top. How did you become involved in the world of Botox?
I was a nurse, so I was at work one day and I was chatting to a colleague, and they had, this is 13 years ago, they had started their, we say aesthetics is the term. They started aesthetics, and I thought, okay, that sounds interesting. Found a company to train because I was a nurse practitioner, so I could prescribe, so the skill set was there, and thought I'll give it a go, and started a little business that it just exploded. Ran the business for 10 years and sold the business and retired. So I was an aesthetics nurse. I'm now retired, but the knowledge must be somewhere in there, Sheila. We can mine for that, hopefully.
Now, I think the word Botox does actually give quite a strong reaction.
And I have to say that Botox is a brand name. The Botox brand is by a company called Allergan. There are other brands out there. So it is actually botulinum toxin type A. So we always used to refer to it in the industry as toxin. For me, it's like saying Hoover and Jacuzzi and Biro. They are brand names. I think people become suspicious when we say the word Botox, don't we?
I think people definitely have a reaction.
Yes.
And I think sometimes they say, oh, no, I'm never going to have Botox. The ones that sort of go, yeah, okay, and you think, has this person had an experience with, I can't even go there to pronounce what you called it, but let's say Botox.
Or toxin, yeah.
Or toxin. And I think this is the thing, when it all came out, it was like, oh my God, they're putting rat poison in their face, they're going to do this, their face is going to collapse, and there was so much information that was right, wrong, and everything in between. I think it became quite scary.
And yes, because it's a poison. It's a toxin from botulism. But obviously synthetic, and it's it's the weak version. It can't kill you. Anything can kill you because you can have an anaphylactic reaction. But so yes, and I think it got a bad press, a bad stigma because of that very reason, didn't it? And then I think as well there's a sort of vanity issue, isn't there? That people say, if I do have Botox, I'm not going to tell anybody, because they will say, why are you spending your money on that? You're very vain. And there are judgments that go with it. I think in my time in the industry, as it became more and more common and popular and more open, people went to the sort of, I'm not going to judge you for it because that's your choice.
Let's go back a bit. So where did Botox come from before we heard of people putting it in their faces?
Okay. I was told that I think it was in the 60s, there is a condition, and I think we all get it when we're tired, called blepharospasm, which is when your eyelid starts to vibrate a little bit and sort of tweak, and it's really annoying, and it's usually when you're tired. People can have that chronically. And a very clever person realised that they used to use botulinum to inject into people who were quadriplegic or paraplegic to stretch out their legs. So somebody thought to relax the muscles so that they weren't contracted.
Which makes total sense.
So they'd used it since, I think it was World War II, and this person thought, actually, if we really, really dilute it, can we get rid of blepharospasm? Can we stop your eyelid from twitching in the corner? So they used it, it was very successful, and then they realised it also made your wrinkles disappear. So like most medicines, it was the side effect that became the treatment, not for its initial use. Still used for blepharospasm, still used for people who have bladder control issues, but cosmetically, that's where it grew up.
So I think when we talk about Botox, most of us think of people injecting it into their forehead.
Yes.
So you can't tell whether this person is happy, sad, or something in between.
Depends on the amount of Botox you've had.
Well, this is where it's going to get interesting, isn't
yes,
it?
Because it's a little bit like, I used to say, it's a little bit like you can either completely colour your hair with bleach and you are really very blonde and your roots come through, or you can have a few highlights and your hair is just slightly lighter, and you can keep going for the highlights and you're slightly lighter. It's more or less exactly the same. The frozen face, I don't think it's a good look, and I wouldn't want it, and I didn't used to promote it.
I think one thing with any kind of cosmetic surgery is, and we're purely talking about vanity here, somebody decides they want a little refresh. Okay, I'm going to have Botox. So you go along to a practitioner and say, okay, I just want to look a little bit younger. I'm a little bit concerned about some of these lines. What can you do for me? Let's talk about that kind of conversation you would have with a client or a patient. What would you call
I would call them clients because they were paying me.
Clients. Yeah.
They were paying me. It was a medical consultation. So client, patient, they were the dream client who used to come and say, I'm just not happy about it. Technically, and I don't want to be too technical on this podcast, technically, there are various muscles in everyone's face, and some work harder than others. And it depends on the shape of your skull. So the ones that work harder than others, you get more wrinkles because the muscles have been working harder. So what I used to say is we can put Botox in that bit and a little less in this bit because it will just even you up. It will because what you see in the mirror and what I see looking at you is completely different. So you might say, I hate the 11 lines in between my eyebrows. I just look at those and say, well, let's just treat those, leave everything else. If you want a little bit more, come back and we can sort that out. That's not a problem. So I used to say to people, it's to make you feel better, not look different.
And I think that's a big difference, isn't it? Because I should imagine, particularly when people come to you for the first time, they are going to unknown territory, and this to a certain extent is permanent for a certain period of time. So it's sort of important to start small, see how you get on with it, see if you're happy with the result. Do not go in with a 10-gallon hat and erase every single line and frown on your face.
Never. Like the great word you used earlier on was refresh. Just to freshen people.
Just look as if you've had a good night's sleep.
Yeah,
you
come back from holiday, you've drunk 2 litres of water every day, you've eaten nothing but fish and vegetables, and you've not worked 60 hours this week. You just look really good. So when you look in the mirror, you think, do you know what? I look okay today. I look good. Perfect scenario. Thank you very much. Off you go. That was always my model. The big thing that we've not touched on yet is the trust between the patient, the client, and me, because I have to trust they're going to be okay, and they have to trust me to put needles into their face, basically, at the end of the day.
And I think particularly with your face, it's not like, for example, you have a bad haircut, you think, okay, well, I'm just going to wear my hair slightly different, it will grow out, and in 6 weeks it'll be okay. You're going to walk out of that office into broad daylight. Are you confident with your face? Are you going to be confident when you meet people who know you very well? You walk home to your family.
But it's not instant.
Well, no, that's right. But it's this expectation of your client. Okay, I'm going to go into his office. I'm going to come out and everyone's going to go, oh my God, What did you do at lunchtime? You look so much, you look, you've had a week's holiday. I guess your client would not want, she left the office this morning, she's come back looking like Cinderella.
No. And the biggest compliment I used to get was and I had 20% of my clients were men. The biggest compliment I used to get was when people came back and they'd say, friends, colleagues, family have said, you look great. There's something different about you, but I don't know what it is.
Yeah, you've had your hair cut.
You've had your hair cut.
New glasses.
Is that a new mascara? Have you had a facial? What? And I used to say, brilliant. Then that's it. That's the level we stay at. I've got your prescription right. We've done it spot on. Absolutely.
So one question I've got for you. When a client comes to your office, is it very much like the hairdresser? I've got a picture, make me look like that. Your face is different, your eyes, your hair, your texture. You're never going to look like Jennifer Aniston. Do people come in and say, I want to look like this person?
Absolutely. And normally people would say, I want to look like this. And I would say, okay, do you want this, this, this and this? And they said, that's exactly what I want. And I'd say, great, because what you actually want is a £7,000 facelift.
So they come in with a very high expectation, and not only are you going to fix their face, you're going to fix their marriage, their love life, their job, their kids, and everything else in between.
Not for a little bit of Botox or a little bit of filler, no. And I would openly say, I can't do that. I can't do what you want.
So your client comes in, let's say we've got a client, okay, I just need a little bit of something. Mm-hmm. I don't want to walk out of here looking like Cinderella. How do you look at that client's face? What are you looking for? I can see you're looking at me very intently now. I'm getting a bit worried.
Never. I used to consult in a sofa area and make it as relaxed as possible. I used to have a hand mirror, and I used to give them the mirror, and I used to say, tell me what you see.
Now that's a $6 million question, isn't it? Particularly with women. Because I'm sure they would say, well, I don't like this and I don't like that. And my ears are too big and I don't like the colour of my hair. Not only are they talking about their skin, they're talking about, oh, my boobs are too small and they're all gone a bit saggy. They will just criticise.
I used to think that. And then I went into the industry and I thought that's what's going to happen. But interestingly, Sheila, they didn't. Because they would say, I don't like the size of my ears, but I know you can't do anything like that. My boobs have gone saggy, but I'm 45 and I've had 3 kids, and I know that I need a breast augmentation. I know you can't do that. But do you know, Martin, these forehead lines drive me up the wall. And I would say, okay. And honesty is the key. And I would be honest with them and say, okay, do you realise why? Do you realise that you have a skull, because we all have different skull shapes, I'm talking about Britain, and the reason is you are a classic Anglo-Saxon or you have a Norman face shape, and that's why. But you will notice that you don't really have any crow's feet. And they say, no, I don't actually. I say, because your forehead muscle moves. So what I'm going to do is, obviously, if you would like, we'll pop you a little bit of Botox in your forehead so that your forehead and around your eyes matches. And they go, that's exactly what I want.
It's so funny you've mentioned the forehead, because I was with some group of friends and I think it must have been some fancy dress, and I had my fringe scraped back, and one of my friends said, Sheila, you should always keep your fringe off of your forehead. And I said, why? She said, because you haven't got a single line on your forehead.
Which I'm looking at Sheila's forehead now and it's true.
And I just think I've got a very high forehead and I feel more comfortable with the fringe, which living here in Valencia, Spanish women do not generally have fringes, so it's a bit different. And I actually went home that night and I'm in front of the mirror and I'm going, do you know what? I haven't.
You haven't, it's true.
And how did she even notice something? I mean, I would never look at someone and go, she's got wrinkles around the eyes, but I was just so shocked that she was like, you should never wear your fringe, keep your fringe because you've got an unlined forehead.
Maybe she did have a lined forehead and was slightly envious of your unlined forehead. Had you not thought of that?
No. I'm just like, I think my forehead's too big and I just like a fringe.
No. And I realise why a lot of older women grow fringes, have fringes. I did realise that.
Well, that is so
But maybe
interesting.
because I used to get clients who said, "Oh, and, you know, my sister is beautiful and she doesn't have a line on her forehead." And I used to say, "Yeah, but does she have crow's feet?" "Oh, yes, she does actually, yeah." But they'd not noticed that, but they were just jealous of her unlined forehead. But when I go, "Yeah, but does she?" "Oh, yeah, she's a bit saggy." "Oh, yeah, yeah."
Okay.
And then the sister would come to me for the crow's feet because yada yada.
Yeah, exactly. So let's just talk about the typical female face. As we get older, forehead lines, lines around the eyes, maybe lines around the mouth, as well as everything generally going south.
Depends on your skull shape.
Now that is interesting. I thought you were going to say face shape.
But your face drapes off your skull, doesn't it?
It does, and I hadn't thought of that.
Yeah. Now, for the sake of the listeners, it's really interesting because you have a classic, what we call Norman face shape, and I have a classic Anglo-Saxon face shape. So the reason you have no forehead lines is because your face is slightly longer and narrower than mine, because I'm an Anglo-Saxon. So if you now look at my face, you will see I've got quite a square face. So I have got lots of forehead wrinkles. My crow's feet are not too bad. My cheekbones are slightly more prominent than yours because the angle of my cheekbone is more horizontal than yours, because you have a classic Norman face shape where your face goes like that. So we always say an Anglo-Saxon face ages from above the cheekbones and a Norman face ages from below the cheekbones. So you will tend to find a lot of Norman skull women get a little bit jowly, but a wonderful forehead.
I have made notes on that because
Sheila was writing this down, listeners, as I was speaking. I can contest to this.
I find that absolutely fascinating, and I love the way you basically saying your face hangs off your skull.
It drapes off your skull. It drapes off 4 points of your skull. I'm demonstrating to Sheila, which is just above your eyebrows, your cheekbones, and the corners of your jawline.
Do you remember back in the day you would go and see sort of Punch and Judy, and the mouth would always have these two lines coming down from the outside corner, and sort of the clip-clap sort of action. As we get older, we notice these lines here.
Because the pivot of your jawbone, which attaches to under your cheek, more in women, because of your bone density
Not
change.
because we talk too much.
That's a joke, which I wasn't even going to go down that road, Sheila. But you've mentioned it, and there's your podcast, my darling, so you can. The angle of a woman's jaw alters, so it actually tips forward. So your chin becomes more prominent. So that's why witches are depicted as older women with pointy chins. And your jaw tips forward, and because it tips forward and you lose a little bit of bone density, which is a natural process peri and postmenopausal, the jawbone it almost wears out. So as that angle changes, your chin comes forward, and obviously there is less support for the corners of your mouth from the muscles at the corners of your mouth, and your mouth starts to turn down.
Okay, so let's move on from the basic structure of the face and how that works. Let's say we've had a consultation and you say, okay, Sheila, yeah, we can do something about the lines on your forehead. What's the next step? We've had the consultation, you know what your plan is. Do you then anaesthetise my forehead into the middle of next week?
Not at all. A medical consultation, because there are some contraindications if you're on certain medications, if you've got certain long-term health problems, and people say, "Oh, Martin, it doesn't matter." I said, "No, I'm not treating you. It's contraindicated." We would then go into from the consultation room into the treatment room, because Botox is given just under the surface of the skin. You clean the area. You have to pull certain funny faces, so I know where your muscles actually are, and you take a before picture, always. A white pencil, you mark up the dots where you need to go, and then you put absolute tiny little amounts just under the skin. So people could have walked out of the clinic with tiny little blobs on their head, which go down in about 20 minutes, and that's it. You don't need to use any anaesthetic at all.
So you don't need the afternoon off work to recover? There's not going to be swelling, bruising?
No. You may bruise, that was the thing. That was the big immediate risk, and especially the crow's feet round your eyes, because you've got a lot of little veins there, and if you hit one, and I'm really sorry, but that was the main risk. And then obviously post-injection care is anything that won't make you open a blood vessel. So no alcohol, you can't go to the gym, you can't exercise, because you run the risk of it bruising post-injection. And there is evidence to suggest that if you start to sweat, you will sort of move it by wiping your forehead continually, and it could go into a danger zone that I've taken a lot of care to avoid.
So when I walk out of your office after having the treatment, when I get home half an hour later on the bus, would I stand in front of my bathroom mirror and go, wow, that was money well spent?
No, you'd go, I don't see any difference at all.
Right, okay. And then when would I feel and see results?
It depends. There are different brands of Botox. Some take a little longer to work than others, but you would probably start I used to say to clients, you will look at yourself in the mirror repeatedly for the next 2 or 3 days going, has it worked? Has it worked? And then you'll forget about it. And on day 5 or 6, you will wake up in the morning and go, oh my God, it's worked.
See, I find that fascinating that you've done the consultation, you've paid the money, you've had the treatment, and I absolutely agree, you were probably looking in the mirror every 5 minutes, nothing, and all of a sudden you're cleaning your teeth and you're like, oh my God.
It doesn't work all of a sudden.
No, exactly.
But you've forgotten.
Yeah.
Yeah, and suddenly you go, my eyebrows don't raise as high as they once did, or these crow fits look really reduced. And then within a week to 2 weeks, it's fully working. But that's a good thing, because then people don't notice.
Exactly. So let's talk about the areas then. We've talked about the forehead. We've talked about crow's feet around the eyes. Lips.
Remember the middle, between your eyebrows?
This is a big one.
Huge.
Big one.
Huge.
Why is that so big? Are we all frowning?
Well, you don't have one.
No, but
because you've got a Norman face shape, but I have one because I've got I've got a big old shelf of eyebrows, because my eyes are more deep set than yours.
Yeah.
That's another thing.
So we've got the forehead, crow's feet.
Yeah, they were the traditional 3 areas: between your eyebrows, across your forehead, and round each eye.
Now, what about sort of over the top lip?
Yeah, you can do it over the top lip just to reduce the sort of, people say smoker's lines, even if you're a non-smoker. Smoker's lines, you can do it there. You can put it just at the sort of bottom corner of your...
Yeah, because you get these sort of from the nose down here.
Yeah, they do. It doesn't do that, but if what we used to call a gummy smile. So if people smile and they show a lot of gum, you can put some just at the corner of your nose, and it helps with that. And the other way you can do it is people who grind their teeth, especially when they sleep. It's called bruxism. And you can put some just at the corner of your jaw, and a lot of dentists do this, and it stops you grinding your teeth. Put it in your neck and things like that, but I never did any of that.
So dentists would use this treatment to help somebody who is grinding their teeth.
Yeah.
Is that headaches people get, and
migraines.
Grinding teeth is just huge.
And I used to find a lot of people who had stress-induced migraines, especially from frowning at work and things like that, especially the ones between the eyebrows. They would say, do you know, my migraines have reduced, because you stop them being able to scowl.
We've talked about the forehead, crow's feet, the bit between the eyes.
Yeah, that tended to be it for Botox.
What's number one? What's the number one area everyone's...
Between their eyebrows.
Between their eyebrows. Now that surprises me. I would have thought that would be way down the list.
No, between their eyebrows. Because you look angry all the time. And people scowl and don't realise. I do it. You scowl and don't realise you're doing it. My favourite story is a colleague of mine said, I had a lovely new client the other day, and I said, okay, well, how can I help you? She just said, I want you to help me not have a resting bitch face anymore. Because I scowl all the time and I don't realise I'm doing it. And people say, are you okay? And she said, I'm fine, why? Because you're scowling. Oh, am I?
Resting
bitch face.
This has come...
Which is a horrible term. And
it is a horrible... But it's quite a new term I've
yes,
come across.
And I think again, it's one of those terms where if a woman says it about herself, it's almost acceptable, isn't it? This lady was saying, I don't know I'm doing it, but I just look angry all the time. And I'm not. I'm not at all, but I'm concentrating, or, so I'm just scowling. I'm just looking really fraught and tense. And I don't realise I'm doing it, so I need you to stop that.
We talked about the what, we've talked about the why, and we've talked about the how. Now we are on to the signs to look for. We can all probably reel off quite a long list of famous people and celebrities that, even though they are in denial, they have new noses, their skin seems to be like a baby's bottom, even though they're denying these things. And we're not going to mention any names here. How can we look at somebody? Because the idea is someone's just going to look as if they've had a good night's sleep, just come back from a holiday. Now, you told me you can tell who's had work done. How can you tell?
For me, the big giveaway is the position of the eyebrows. Because if people still want a little bit of movement in their forehead, you have to put some in the centre of the forehead and sort of reduce it as you go to the outside edges of your forehead. Now, if you do that, you automatically get a peak in the sort of arch of your eyebrow. So if the eyebrow starts to peak and the sort of chevron of wrinkles going up towards your hairline exists, but then goes very smooth, that's an obvious sign. People's eyebrows don't raise is just a complete sign. If they've had slightly too much, their face is a little bit shinier than it should be.
Oh my God. I always say they look plastic.
It just doesn't look right.
It's like, okay, you haven't found the secret to the perfect flawless foundation or makeup. I do not believe it's a wonderful skincare regime. They look either waxy or plastic.
I had a client, she was a model and demonstrator for a television shopping channel for their skincare, but she was also a client of mine.
We are both sitting here nodding.
We're nodding, viewers and listeners, without trying to name names. So yeah, that's the giveaway. Fillers, you can especially, and I don't even want to talk about horrendous lip fillers, which seem so popular these days, which is just horrendous.
Can we just briefly try and understand what's the difference between Botox, and we are talking about the brand here, but Botox and filler. What is the difference? Because I haven't got a clue.
Okay, Botox is a toxin. At the end of your nerve endings, you have something called acetylcholine. That's the messenger that goes across to your muscles that says move. Botox knocks acetylcholine off, so the message doesn't get to your muscles. So everybody says it paralyzes muscles. It doesn't. It just gives your muscle a very weak signal. So it's like when you've got a terrible phone signal going through a train tunnel and you hear every other word. You sort of get the conversation, but you've not heard every word. Fillers are made from a different substance, with hyaluronic acid, which actually binds water into the area you put the filler. So hyaluronic acid binds molecular weight 1,000 times its own weight. So basically it's like putting the world's best hydration in, but you have to go deep. So any cream you put on your face, well, it's got hyaluronic acid, you will look marvellous. You will, but only to certain levels. A filler goes much deeper and you get the same level of hydration. So you get the dewy skin, you get the plumpness. Too much filler, you look too plump, you have a pillow face, you have enormous lips that make you look like some sort of exotic fish.
Right, there's a couple of things I need to unpick there. Hyaluronic acid, we're seeing, I think since the pandemic, it seems to be nobody was going anywhere, nobody put on makeup. But then everybody started looking after their skin because they had the time. They had the time to do 36 steps of creams on their faces. I love watching a YouTube video about skincare and makeup as much as the next person. But I think skincare went ballistic. Hyaluronic acid is used in skincare a lot because it is trapping way more than its own weight in moisture.
Perfect.
So that's great.
Yeah.
Fillers, I've always been under the impression they are basically injecting some kind of squidgy gel into your lips.
Which it
give
is.
You that.
Yeah, it is a gel.
It is a gel.
That's the consistency of it. It is a gel, but that gel will, like a sponge, retain much more moisture.
Now, we've all seen people that have overdone the lips particularly. Yeah, you've got your head in your hands
Yes,
here currently.
yeah.
It is a thing, isn't it? I get the impression, and please correct me, as we get older, our lips tend to get thinner,
Yes.
which is just part of the aging process.
Yeah, because you lose hyaluronic acid naturally. We all do it.
And we're losing like the collagen, that type
all
of
of
thing.
that.
People who decide to go ahead and have fillers, okay, no problem. So they sort of try to get back the shape of the lip, give it a bit more fullness, which makes perfect sense. But it does seem a lot of people overdo it, and whether it's by request by them or doctor they've gone to has overdone it and basically given them exactly what they want. It's very scary. In theory, thinner lips is quite aging, so people are using fillers to try and get that youthfulness back. So you end up with these lovely full luscious lips, but they don't actually match the rest of your face, your neck, your chest, your hands, etc.
Exactly.
And that's where it all goes horribly
That's where it all
wrong.
goes horribly wrong. And I do think huge lips have become very popular in younger and younger women. Something else needs discussion, because fully made up with the false eyelashes on and the hair and an Instagram filter, that may look nice, or you may think it looks nice, but in day-to-day life it does not look nice at all. And a good lip filler, you should not be able to tell at all, because once again, like the Botox, people said, and I've got thin lips, Martin, and I don't really like them. I want enormous lips, and I say go elsewhere. But I can do you a nice lip filler that will just sort of eat, because maybe you have excellent skin and you've just, I don't know, you maybe smoked or whatever, or your dentition, your teeth are not right. Good lips, you won't be able to tell. You'll just think, oh, she's got lovely lips. But huge lips and huge round lips, that's what gets me.
I have to say, the word porn star springs to mind, particularly with the lips. I don't want to go too much down that route.
No, but it's not.
But that's what it reminds me of.
Yeah, absolutely.
Porn star lips, I just call it.
I used to call it drag queen lips. And as we know, most drag queens paint that on and they wash it off when the show's done. And that's fine, because, that's a look, isn't it? That's an art form. No. And as well, I think the thing, Sheila, is you only look at yourself from the front. We rarely look at ourselves in profile, and we all see bad lips, and when you see them in profile, that's when you notice they are bad lips, because they project too much from the side. So I used to take photos of clients before and after, but especially before, and the most popular one was in profile, and I used to say, if I give you those lips will actually stick out much too far forward. So in profile, you will look like somebody could stick you to a window. And
it's exactly the same with boobs, isn't it? Sideways on, you see the boobs coming round the corner.
You see the boobs front on, and you just think boobs. You see the boob side on, and you see the boob before you see the rest of the person. And it's same with lips, isn't it?
Yeah,
you see the lips from profile before you see the rest of the face, and then you can't even look at the rest of the face because you can't stop looking at the lips.
Can we talk about men?
Please do.
And Botox, lip enhancers, generally having a refresh. When did men start getting in on the act?
Well, I don't think I ever did any. In 10 years of running the business, I don't think I ever did a man's lips.
Dare I ask what you did instead of his lips?
Well, but lots of Botox, because the majority of my clients, and this is my own judgment, the majority, I thought, okay, they're going to be, your sort of stereotypical gay men or something like that, but they were not. And I had a wonderful client, and he used to come for Botox, and he was one of my first clients, actually, and I said to him, just out of interest, why? And he said, Martin, I spend hours in the gym. From the neck down, I look great. From the eyebrows up, I look shocking. And I said, fair enough.
That's a brilliant answer.
Lots of bald men, men with tattoos, bald men especially, because they said people just look at my head because I have no hair. so I have a lot more forehead than the. So I said, oh, okay. So that was fine. And there was a different, not a hyaluronic acid filler. There were other sorts of fillers which were really, really good for men, because we used to do a lot in the cheekbones and a lot in the jawbone, because it gave you a more angular look. So if you've got a slightly weaker jawbone or flatter cheeks, it sort of lifted you slightly. Women used to love it as well, because it did give you a little bit of a facelift.
Yeah, we love a bit of a chiseled jaw on a man.
And don't we? We love that square. Because
Mark Webber, ex-Formula One, oh my God, he's got the jaw to die for. Look it up, listeners. You will not be disappointed.
And you know, that's an attractive quality, and a
definitely.
manly quality. And they were saying, oh, Martin, you know, I've got biceps that could, you know, crack walnuts, but my chin is shocking. And I said, okay, and I want that to look like that. I said, fine, that's what we shall do. So yeah, a lot of men were doing it. The other thing as well with a lot of men was, and this is a medical condition, was hyperhidrosis, where you sweat a lot under your arms and on your hands. And you can use Botox to stop the sweating.
We're not going to go down the route.
No, but a lot of men came.
HRH.
HRH? Yes.
I did not sweat. I have a medical condition. I didn't sweat.
But that's the exact opposite.
Exactly.
Because hyperhidrosis is you sweat continually.
And you're having this treatment to prevent that.
Yeah. And I didn't realise, because, you know, I came from a nursing background, predominantly female-oriented occupation, so I'd never been in that corporate world. And a lot of guys used to come saying, Martin, I need to progress my career, so I have to still maintain sort of a youthful, virile exterior, and my jaw is shocking, or my cheeks are as flat as a pancake. I need to tap the brake of aging to keep me in the game, really. And which was shocking to me, because I thought, well, just be yourself. But
so, just following on from that, Martin, though, if we look at straight men and gay men, would you say it's 50-50, or it's got nothing to do with it? It's just the case of how the face is
that
going.
whole metrosexual, irrespective of your sexual orientation. It was that metrosexual, you know, I like to look after myself, I go to the gym, I have my hair cut every 3 weeks. That sort of, you know, I don't like to get my hands dirty. I'm completely generalising and stereotyping, but the sort of gay straight quota, I think I started to count, I wonder how many of my clients, and I just thought...
Because my experience, straight men are very much against looking after their skin. You know, any old soap is fine, whereas gay men, I think they are more concerned about their appearance. Maybe they have more disposable income.
And more competition.
Well, yeah, there is that too. But I think a lot of women appreciate a well-groomed man. Now, I'm not saying you have to spend thousands on creams and lotions and potions, but looks after their skin, their nails, clean, that type of thing.
They're just presentable, they're clean.
Yeah, absolutely.
Have you ever noticed, Sheila, that most men's products are usually 2-in-1?
Because they're so lazy.
Because they don't... Because one could argue... My counter-argument is a woman would say, oh my, I can't go out with a man who has more face creams than me.
I would like to be in the position where my partner would have a nice lot of skincare that I could actually borrow and use.
Well, and the reverse happens. The biggest market in skincare today is for men. There are adverts at the time of Sheila and I chatting where there's a new, I can't remember the brand, but it's literally 2-in-1. Gets rid of age spots and wrinkles, and I just think, yeah, most men's products are 2-in-1, shampoo and conditioner. Take one bottle for the gym.
Yeah, that used to be a tagline on a particular brand.
On a particular brand.
Yeah.
And now most shower gels aimed at men after the gym or playing sports are hair and body wash, because I still think there's a still judgment of a man opening his bathroom cabinet and it being full. So the companies are very clever at mixing two products. So whereas a traditional female client may use 4 or 5 steps of skincare, a man can get away with 2 or 3. Get away with that was terrible, but you know what I mean.
I mean, this is absolutely fascinating, isn't it? Because as I said, going back to the pandemic, nobody was wearing makeup. We all focused on skincare.
Yeah.
And I think this is really, really interesting, because on the rare occasions I have been in a gay man's house, I have to look in their bathroom cabinet. Now, listeners, do not judge me. When you go to somebody's house and you're sitting on the loo, I might cut this bit out. When you are sitting on the loo, I'm sure you just have a look around if there's anything on the shelves, even if what brand toothpaste do they use. But I remember being invited to a gay man's house for dinner, very, very lovely, and he said to me, come and have a look in my bathroom cabinet. Well, he had the biggest bathroom cabinet known to man. It was almost like a wardrobe. And he had every high-end brand going. Skin, eyes, body, hands. And I was just in awe. I was like a child in a sweet shop. And religiously, from literally top to toe, everything was moistured, pampered, hydrated. I mean, he did have particularly facial skin and nails to die for.
Exactly, because he probably doesn't feel judged about having the level of product. But I'm going to ask you a question now. Do you expect a man to smell nice?
Oh my God, yes.
Exactly.
It should be a law.
Exactly.
It should be a law. And the interesting thing, gay men always smell gorgeous.
That was going to be my next thing.
And straight men, it's like, I've got deodorant, that's enough.
Sheila was generalising here, dear listener.
It is, but it's true. It is true. And if you encourage men, it's like, oh, we're going somewhere, maybe a little aftershave. It's like, oh. Whereas I think most gay men, they comb their hair, they wash their face, and they put a bit of something on.
But I do have to say, a lot of my clients, irrespective of their sexual orientation, they would walk into my clinic and they would say, oh, Martin, I'm sorry I'm a little bit late. I popped home after work, I had a shower. And because the other thing I used to say to clients, irrespective of their gender, well, no, yes, but to everyone, but especially women, I used to say, okay, now I'm actually injecting into your face. I can't do that from arm's length. I have to get very, very close to you, and it's an intimate
absolutely.
thing. So I have to say, even a lot of women say, Martin, can I come first thing? Yeah, because I'll have showered, because they wanted to look, smell, and be clean and presentable. The sort of in doing this, there's a level of intimacy that I don't think people appreciate. Sometimes people say, well, of course you have to, Martin, and it's fine. I never took that for granted, and I would say to a new client, I will be close to you. So there's no other way I can do it. So a lot of and I use the word metrosexual, guys would come and say, yeah, don't worry, Martin, it's fine. But they would all looked after themselves physically and in their health and diet, and they were all, But then again, I didn't have many obese clients because of the phrase no wrinkles on a balloon.
One thing I was going to say, and you've put me off my stride.
You liked that, didn't you?
I ask you now. I know what I was going to say. There is a big step from skincare that we buy from Boots, Superdrug, or wherever your shop of choice, to having injectables. That's a big step. I think so.
Do you?
Yes.
Okay, and that's an interesting. I'd not, because I think there's a big step between. Oh, I beg your pardon, Sheila. There's a bigger step between skincare and cosmetic surgery.
Oh my God, yeah.
And the step in between is injectables.
That's true. That is true.
So I think when people are disappointed with skincare, because skincare can only do so much. Did you know that a cream can only call itself anti-aging if it contains an SPF? Because that's the only thing that prevents aging. With
your skin, smoking,
no,
sun,
no,
and protecting your skin from the elements, whether that's cold, if you're in a cold climate, the sun.
Smoking, alcohol, and sun damage. Definitely sun damage. So yes, always use an SPF. That, dear listener, please, if you take one thing away, use that. So so I think injectables, to me, and this can't be objective, obviously, is the next step, because you can have a little tweak, and then you can have a little more tweak. So it just sort of, and I always used to say to people, do you have a good skincare routine? Not really. Well, then you're wasting your money coming to me. It won't last as long.
I mean, this is a very interesting thing. A skincare routine for someone is 36 steps before bed.
Yes.
To somebody else, it's just washing their face with fairy liquid before they go to bed. And trust me, it's not just the men. it was in the bathroom and it's some kind of liquid washing thing. That's good enough. Toilet duck.
Yeah, whatever. All of that. And and it's right. But there are very expensive skincare brands out there, and there are cheaper ones. But my advice would always be, pick one to your budget. But the most effective skincare is the one you use twice a day. Doesn't matter. Yeah. You can have a very expensive pot of cream in your bathroom. Do you use it? When I remember. Then you're wasting your money.
That's very important, because I actually this morning I was putting some after sun cream that I had left over from the summer. I thought, okay, I'm going to use it on my arms and my legs. For some reason I decided to read the back of the tube, and it said clinically tested, blah de blah de blah, tested on 23 people. And I thought, 23 people? What does that tell me about this product? Particularly when you see adverts on TV and in magazines, you look at the small print at the bottom, and we've now got over the thing where, for example, an advertisement for mascara, and if you look on the small print, it said the model's image has been enhanced with
that's
false
now illegal,
eyelashes.
Isn't it?
Don't even buy that mascara, because she probably hasn't used that mascara, plus she's got 2 sets of eyelashes on.
Yeah, but the Advertising Standards Agency really cracked down on that.
They have changed that. What is the point of having a cream, and it's a beautiful cream, love it, love it, love it, very well-known brand, tested on 23 people? What does that tell me? Nothing.
No idea.
Was the 24th one busy? Or could they only find 23 people at the bus stop on that day?
There is a lot of evidence to suggest a moisturiser does nothing. It just feels nice on your skin. But it doesn't do anything. It has to have either vitamin C or vitamin E in it. If it doesn't, don't buy it.
One question I have, and this comes up a lot, whenever you walk past a cosmetic department store, and you've got the spray or the spritzer girls, and you've got the people handing out samples. For me, they always say, would you like to try the eye cream? They don't focus on any other part of my face apart from my eyes. So I'm getting a bit paranoid. And I was watching a YouTube video of a cosmetic specialist based in Switzerland. And the question was, is there any difference between an eye cream and a normal facial moisturiser? One camp says the skin around your eyes is thinner and more delicate, so we should be very careful how we apply eye makeup. Don't attack your eyes when you're taking off your makeup. That's very true. But do we need a separate cream? Now, she was saying no, and I thought that was very interesting, because whenever I have bought eye cream, I use it for 2 days, think, do you know what, I just can't be bothered. I put the same cream on my face. Is there any truth in you need an eye cream and you need a facial cream?
Again, there are people who have either opinion. I would say no. I would say use the same cream, but never ever rub underneath your eyes. The skin under your eyes is literally the thickness of a tissue, and everywhere else on your body you have bone, fat, muscle, and bone, muscle, fat, and skin, apart from under your eyes, because you have no bone, because it's your eye socket. So basically the skin just falls, and the fat under your eye is absolutely tissue paper thin. So if you rub it, it does you no good. So we always say dab thing with your ring finger.
Yeah, it's a very gentle touch.
Gentle tap.
But use the same cream.
Use the same cream, just pop it under your eyes. Be fine. Don't use a lot, because it will just absorb it and you'll have big bags under your eyes.
I mean, if you think you go into the average shop, whether it's drugstore, high-end department store, and you walk in there and the plethora of creams, lotion, potions, serums, this acid, vitamin, this, that and the other, it's a minefield.
It is.
And it's in a very expensive minefield.
A dermatologist once told me, if you want ace skin, they're the 3 ingredients you look for. Vitamin A, which we know as a retinoid or retinol, vitamin C, which is basically orange or lemon juice, and vitamin E.
I'm making notes again.
And Sheila's writing it down, ladies and gentlemen. On the next podcast, Sheila's going to look 12 instead of 14, which she looks now.
Thank God my face never appears in this podcast. One thing, when you do get into discussions with people about ageing, my answer is, Do you know what? I don't actually have to look at my face. If it's a problem for you, maybe just move on.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
I do the best I can at a certain age. I try to look after my skin, particularly living in Spain. The sun is very strong. Watch these girls on YouTube and they're putting, 36 layers. I haven't got time for that. One last question before we finish. What haven't I asked you that I should have done about skin, Botox, aging, your skin hanging off your skull, which I think is just genius?
Is it ever too late?
Ah, yes. Oh, so where do we stand on that?
It's never too late, but it can be too early.
It can be. Now that's surprising me. One thing I want to say about that, I was reading an article the other day and it said in France, daughters are taken by their mothers at about the age of 12, 13 to a French pharmacy for the pharmacy to put together a skincare regime. Where do we go with that?
I think skincare, absolutely. So SPF, protect your skin and it will pay you back. For things like injectables, no, you don't need lip fillers at 18 and you certainly don't need Botox at 18.
But 18-year-olds are having Botox and lip fillers.
They are.
They're turning into porn stars.
From people who are more interested in maybe profit than helping their clients.
So
an opinion. Never too late.
Never too late.
But it can be too early.
So
for injectables, for skincare, please start as early as possible to protect your skin, especially from the sun.
I think now there is so much technology involved in skincare, and we're talking lotions, potions and creams. It's a minefield for us, the customer. And I do particularly feel when I go to a department store, I feel pressure from this highly made up, beautiful cosmetic lady. But she's got targets. She needs to sell X amount of product. And I just think, am I getting what's best for me and my skin, or what's best for her targets and her commission?
I would argue the latter, definitely.
I tend to agree with that. And I think, whenever I think, okay, I'm going to treat myself to something, and I go in and it's just too much.
Yeah.
It's just too much. And I just go back to what I'm quite lucky. My skin, it doesn't like lots of stuff. If ever I try and add something, it's like, no, don't. And your skin tells you very, very quickly what it doesn't like.
Your skin is the biggest indicator of your health. And we all know that. If you had a late night, you wake up and you look grey and you look shocking. And that's the biggest signal. I mean, and we're talking now, Sheila, aren't we, about people who don't have dermatological conditions. If you do that and you see your doctor or your nurse specialist, then obviously take their advice, because they're talking prescription only.
And we talk about strong
that's
treatments.
Very, very different from people just using cosmetic skincare to sort of make yourself look as good as you can and feel better, not for people who have a dermatological condition. I just wanted to say that.
I mean, you've obviously got a lot of knowledge about products and brands because of what you did.
Indeed.
We can look at a tube and we can see this with most things. Okay, I've got a pot of face cream here, £100. I've got a pot of XYZ, same size pot, plastic, no, not jazzy, and I've got a lovely glass, gold lidded, for £10. So £10, £100. Is there a lot of difference in the product, or is it packaging?
I think a lot of it is packaging. I would always look for products with as natural ingredients as possible. So if you're going down the sort of vitamin E route, a natural rather than a synthetic vitamin E. But I genuinely think there is a ceiling to spend. To say to clients and patients, whatever's in your price range, but you use it every morning and you use it every night. That's the key. It's a bit like a car, isn't it? I used to say this. It's a bit like a car. You can go from here to the supermarket in a very high-end sports car, or you can go in a very cheap old car. You've still gone to the supermarket and you still come back again, and you've used the car. One is very luxurious and you have a nice comfy seat and and the other one, the seat is not very comfy, but you've gone to the supermarket and back.
So basically what we're saying, you do not have to spend a lot of money. You're okay going to your local drugstore and buy, but it's use it morning and night.
Consistency is key.
Watch the sun, watch the alcohol,
Yeah,
the
smoking.
water, smoking,
Yeah.
which are basic. It's not rocket science.
There is no...
We all know.
Yeah, it's a bit like, I'm following this, people say, oh, I'm going to lose 10 stone by my wedding on Thursday, it's Tuesday evening, and they go, because I'm only going to eat strawberries. Well, no, if you want to lose weight, if you want to look after yourself, it will take you a long time, because there is no quick fix.
So, watch out for the sun, protect the skin, water, cut down or even knock off the smoking,
Yeah.
the alcohol,
Sugar, salt,
sugar.
everything we all know is bad for us. The biggest indicator of our health is our skin, and we all know it.
Martin, what can I say about this podcast? We've done from the skin hanging off the skull, we've gone to porn star lips,
You went to porn star lips. I never did.
Martin, thank you so much. I mean, this is great because this has been on my wish list for 3 years. So thank you so much for being on the podcast, being a brilliant, brilliant, fun guest, dug the dirt out and told us what to do, what not to do. Thank you so much.
My absolute pleasure.
So thank you for listening to the podcast. I hope you enjoyed the conversation. I certainly did. So please subscribe for future episodes. It is free. And if you have a story to tell, please contact me on the All About You podcast at yahoo.com and let's tell your story.